my beautiful babes and babettes. I'm your resident active advocate, and I almost forgot to make this video, but I'm very happy I didn't, because today we are talking about probably the cutest book that I have read in quite a long time, actually. It is called Forward Shakespeare by Jean Little. We have talked about this wonderful author before, and I very much enjoy her, and I very much enjoy this book. Shakespeare, in this context, is a seeing eye dog. Some people call them a blind dog. That doesn't really work. If the dog were blind, they wouldn't be able to guide you. So that definition is kind of off the table. But, okay, so the proper term is seeing eye dog, right? And there are various institutions throughout North America and Europe, and probably in other continents. I would have to research this too. But where a person with low vision or a person who is legally blind or fully blind can be set up with a seeing eye dog, more commonly known as a guide dog, and that works too because they do guide you. What I want to talk to you about with this book more is about the conceptions and misconceptions that have to do with guide dogs and guide dog training. So, firstly, though, the plot of this book is that this young teen, Tim, has recently lost his vision, and he has to go to a school for seeing eye dogs where he is paired up with his own, and they have to train together for several months. This is a very in-depth process. You're not just automatically paired up with a seeing eye dog. You, as the owner, and the dog as the dog, have to get to know one another's behaviors, one another's patterns, and how one another operates. So when Tim is paired with Shakespeare, he's not happy about it at all because he's still in denial about having lost his vision, and he's still extraordinarily upset about it. And I shouldn't even use the word still, because being born blind is much easier than losing your vision. Any acquired disability is always going to be harder to handle than a disability with which you are born, just because of the factor that you're not used to it. You know, it has to be gotten used to before you can learn to function within your new skill set. Right. So Tim is paired with Shakespeare. He's not happy about it, but Shakespeare, in the narration, is said to be a very friendly dog as well as a very intelligent dog. He is unique in that, quote, he can understand human. For a guide dog or a seeing eye dog in the real world to be able to function, they do have to be of higher than average intelligence. They also have to be of a larger breed. I'm not talking Rottweiler here, and I'm not talking Pit Bull. I'm talking Yellow Lab, Golden Retriever, German Shepherd, Black Lab, you know, these sort of mid to large size dogs, because the entire point of a seeing eye dog is to not help you navigate necessarily, but is to keep you safe when you are navigating outside of your home environment. One of the common misconceptions about a seeing eye dog is that you can say to them, "Guide dog, I would like to go to Walmart," and they would be able to take you there. The dog is not your GPS. You have to know where you are going in order to guide the dog. But they guide you in that they serve to get you where you are going in terms of getting you around obstacles and through barriers and generally keeping you safe. The reason that they are often mid to large sized dogs is that they have to be large enough to stop you. One of the points that this book makes very clear is that the training process involves both the guider, like the person with the dog, and the seeing eye dog learning to function together, but the dog has to learn what they call in the book selective disobedience. One of the scenes in the book, Tim does not hear traffic coming when he's about to cross the street when working with Shakespeare, and he keeps saying, "Forward, Shakespeare, forward," right? He's giving Shakespeare a command, which otherwise Shakespeare ought to obey. But dogs have better hearing than humans, and they can pick up on stuff before we can pick up on stuff. So when Shakespeare hears the danger coming, but Tim does not, Shakespeare is selectively disobedient in order to keep Tim safe. Now, the entire ethos around Shakespeare is that he is a very intelligent dog and picks things up very quickly. And he really likes people, but he also really likes other dogs. So another aspect of seeing eye dog training is inculcating discipline. You have to make sure that while on the job, while physically in harness, and I'll get to that, while physically in harness, your job is to keep the dog on track, but their job is to stay on track. So if your dog is very easily distracted, you need to train them out of that. One of the things that can often distract a dog is another dog. Dogs tend to be, depends on the breed, but tend to be very friendly and sociable animals. So one of the major aspects of keeping the dog on the job is to blind them. That's the wrong term. Wow. Is to keep them from distractions. So, wow. Good job, Lily. Okay. Smack myself in the side of the head. But, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, the whole thing about the dog needs to learn discipline, but dogs can also have a hard time adjusting if they are afraid of particular things. I have friends who in the past have had seeing eye dogs with particular fears. For example, I have one friend whose dog was very much afraid of thunderstorms. They could not work during thunderstorms. They couldn't leave the house. That's how afraid this dog was of thunderstorms. And unfortunately, that dog had to be retired. There are some behaviors, there are some fears, there are some management issues that dogs cannot be trained out of. It's sort of like training a child. Again, training being the wrong word to use on a child, but if, okay, let's say your child is very much afraid of thunderstorms, and I was when I was little, they're not going to want to go out to the grocery store with you, right? So if a human's not going to want to do it, and a dog is not as intelligent as a human, you can't really say to the dog, "Okay, now we have to go." You know, theoretically, in their training, they should be able to learn to ignore that fear. But if they can't, then they'll either not be assigned or they'll have to be retired. And this does happen on occasion in the real world. You don't see it happen in the book, but one of the interesting things that happens in this book is that Tim gets his guide dog mixed up with someone else's, and the bond that has been formed at this point between owner and dog is not supposed to be, this is a real world aspect as well, is not supposed to be undone. So when Tim says to this other dog, assuming that it's his dog, go forward, Shakespeare, the dog won't go. And eventually, the two owners come to the conclusion, hey, we have one another's dogs, don't we? And they make the switch back. But neither dog would obey either owner, because when you train with a dog, they are specifically set up with you to obey you. And people are often paired with dogs who would match them in terms of size and not quite as much in terms of temperament. In terms of temperament, you can ask for a calmer dog or a more boisterous dog, but a lot of the time you get what you get. And that's not for lack of stock, that's more for, otherwise, other than this one tick that one or other of you may have, this dog and you are a really good fit together. And I have seen this work on several occasions. One of my friends had a seeing eye dog, um, beautiful, beautiful golden retriever with curly fur. You don't see that very often in retrievers, but this was a beautiful boy. And I think you can tell I am partial to guide dogs. I rather like them because they can be very gentle sorts of animals. And I used to be afraid of dogs when I was little, but I'm not anymore. Thank you, guide dogs. And this dog was boisterous and friendly and giant. And he would try and jump up on you and put his paws on you whenever you came into the house to see his owner, but also to see the dog. Let's not kid ourselves. That's what we are all actually there for. So, okay, another element of guide dog training is that when it comes to controlling your dog, you have to make it very clear that you are the one in charge of them. Selective disobedience, good thing. But if the dog is on harness, not only do you have to keep them from being distracted, but you have to disallow distractions from around the dog. A lot of the time, people don't know what the harness specifically means. Harness is not the same as being on a leash. If the dog is on a leash, they are acting as a pet at that point. If the dog is on harness, they are working. And this is a real world rule. You are not supposed to interact with the dog in any way while they are working. Most people will definitely observe that because it's not even a form of politeness. It is actually a requirement that this dog not be distracted so they can do their job. But once off harness, go nuts. But at the owner's discretion, of course. Always at the owner's discretion. Do you speak to the dog? Do you pet the dog? Do you interact with the dog in any way, shape, or form? Because the owner is in charge. That can't be questioned. And when it comes to this book, Shakespeare and Tim work very well together, and Shakespeare is proved by the end of the book to be a very good boy, okay? But Tim is the one in charge. And when he gets home with Shakespeare, his parents make it very clear he is the one in charge. He has to feed the dog, he has to walk the dog, he has to care for the dog, because the dog is not only just a working machine, it's also a living being. So that's another aspect that you have to take into account. If you are watching this and would like to get yourself a seeing eye dog or a service animal of any kind, you are also responsible. You are solely responsible for its care because you're in charge and you're the owner. When Tim and Shakespeare reconcile their differences and Tim finally realizes, hey, this is a good thing for me because this means independence for me. Then the book sees a dramatic uptick in mood. Until that point, though, you see this sort of, quote, failure to adjust on Tim's part, which in the real world is very much understandable. And in the book world is very much understandable as well, because like I say, it's difficult to acquire a disability. Much easier to be born with one. But I really like this book because puppies! All right. Read it. It's like that thick. It's tiny. It's a tiny thing. Forward Shakespeare by Jean Little. She is a Canadian author and she is fantastic. And that is my bookish analysis for the day. I will not see you tomorrow because I do not work on weekends. Or rather, I take weekends off. But I will see you on Monday for a further book analysis, and I do believe we only have 2 or 3 to go. And after the book analysis series, I would like to do a series on the phenomenon of infantilization. Oh, the fun we're going to have with that. 2 thumbs up. All right, I will see y'all on Monday. Have fun, take care of yourselves, and have a lovely weekend.